Amanda Clark stood in the white hallway and tried not to think about the 12 people who had walked this same path before her. The underground facility in Nevada felt cold even though the air was warm. She could hear the hum of machines behind, the thick walls. Somewhere in those rooms, scientists were getting ready to either save humanity or kill her. Dr. Kevin Martinez walked beside her. His face looked tired and worried. He had been working on this project for 3 years now. 3 years of failure and death and hoping for something that might never come. Amanda knew he felt guilty about what they were going to do to her. She also knew he would do it anyway because Earth needed this to work. "You can still change your mind," he said quietly, as they stopped in front of a heavy metal door. "We would understand." Amanda looked at him and shook her head. "No. We both know this is the only chance we have." The truth was simple and terrible. The aliens were coming and humanity could not stop them. The Zephyrian Empire had been moving across the galaxy for hundreds of years. They took planets like humans picked fruit from trees, easy and quick and without much thought. Their ships were faster than anything humans had built. Their weapons could destroy entire cities in seconds. Their shields made human missiles bounce, off like raindrops. 3 months ago, their scout ships had appeared at the edge of the solar system. They had not attacked yet, but everyone knew they were watching and learning and getting ready. The governments of Earth had tried everything. They built bigger weapons that still could not get through alien shields. They sent messages asking for peace that went unanswered. They even tried to run by building ships to carry people to other star systems, but the aliens were faster and would catch them easily. That was when Project Genesis became humanity's last hope. The project had started when the first alien scout ship crashed in the Pacific Ocean 2 years ago. Dr. Martinez and his team had studied every piece of alien technology they could find. They learned that the aliens used something like biology, mixed with machines. Their ships were almost alive. Their weapons grew like plants but fought like animals. The human scientists had tried to copy the alien technology but failed every time. Human machines were too different. Human biology was too weak. But then Dr. Lisa Parker had an idea that changed everything. What if they changed human biology instead of trying to change human machines? What if they made humans who could work with alien technology the same way the aliens did? The serum was the result of 2 years of desperate work. It was made from alien tissue and human DNA and chemicals that had never existed before. The theory was simple, but the reality was deadly. The serum would change a human body at the most basic level. It would make new connections in the brain, and new pathways in the blood, and new ways for cells to talk to each other. If it worked, the person would be able to touch alien technology and understand it and control it. If it did not work, the person would die in ways that gave the doctors nightmares. 12 volunteers had tried before Amanda. All of them had been soldiers or scientists who knew the risks. The first 3 had died within hours as their bodies rejected the changes. The next 4 had lived longer, but their minds had broken under the stress of the transformation. They were still alive in the medical wing, but they no longer remembered who they were or what they had been trying to do. The last 5 had seemed to handle the serum better at first, but then their bodies had started changing in ways that were not human anymore, and the doctors had been forced to end their suffering. Amanda had read all the reports. She had talked to Dr. Martinez and Dr. Parker and the other scientists until she understood exactly what would probably happen to her. She had written letters to her family that would be sent if she died. She had made peace with her choice because someone had to try and she was the best candidate they had found. She had been a Marine captain before the aliens came. She had served in 3 different conflicts and earned medals for courage under fire. When the first reports of alien contact reached Earth, she had left the military to study xenobiology because she wanted to understand what humanity was facing. That background made her perfect for the project. She had the physical training to maybe survive the transformation and the scientific knowledge to maybe understand what was happening to her. The metal door opened, and Amanda walked into the injection chamber. It looked like a medical room mixed with a laboratory mixed with a prison cell. There was a bed with straps to hold her down when the pain started. There were machines to monitor her heart and brain and blood. There were computers to record everything that happened so future volunteers might have a better chance. Dr. Parker was waiting inside with 2 nurses and a security guard. The security guard was there in case the serum made Amanda dangerous, like it had made 2 of the previous volunteers before they died. Everyone in the room looked scared but determined. They all knew this might be the last time anyone tried this experiment. Amanda lay down on the bed and let them strap her arms and legs down. The straps were made of the strongest materials they could find, because some of the previous volunteers had become incredibly strong right before they died. She watched Dr. Parker fill a syringe with liquid that looked like silver mixed with blood. The serum was warm when it touched her skin. "Good luck," Dr. Martinez said through the intercom from the observation room. Amanda closed her eyes and felt the needle go into her arm. The serum moved into her bloodstream like fire mixed with ice. Every cell in her body started screaming at once. The last thing she remembered before the darkness took her was hoping that when she woke up, she would still be human enough to save the world. Amanda woke up, and the world was different. Everything looked sharper and clearer than it had ever been before. She could see tiny scratches on the ceiling that no normal human eye could have noticed. She could hear conversations happening 3 rooms away. She could smell the fear and excitement of the doctors who were watching her through the observation window. 3 weeks had passed, but she remembered none of it. Dr. Martinez told her later that she had been unconscious the entire time while her body fought to accept the changes the serum was making. Her heart had stopped twice. Her brain activity had gone wild and then completely flat and then wild again. The doctors had been ready to declare the experiment a failure and her another casualty. But then on the 21st day, she had opened her eyes and asked for water in a voice that sounded like her own. The first tests were simple. Dr. Parker asked her to read letters on a chart across the room. Amanda could read letters so small they looked like dots to everyone else. They asked her to lift weights, and she lifted more than any human should have been able to lift. They asked her to solve math problems, and she solved them faster than the computers could check her answers. But the real surprise came when they brought in the alien technology. The piece was small and black and covered with patterns that seemed to move when nobody was looking directly at it. It had come from the wreckage of the first scout ship. The human scientists had been studying it for 2 years, without understanding what it did or how it worked. Every test they tried failed. Every scanner they used gave different results. The alien device stayed as mysterious as the day they had pulled it from the ocean. Amanda picked it up and immediately knew what it was. The knowledge came to her without words or explanation. It was a communication device, but not the kind humans used. It was meant to connect minds directly without needing language or signals. She touched a spot on its surface that looked the same as every other spot, and the device came alive in her hands. Light flowed across its surface in patterns that told stories. She could see images of alien worlds and alien cities and alien ships traveling between the stars. She could feel the thoughts of the beings who had made this device and used it to talk to each other across impossible distances. For just a moment, she was connected to minds that were completely different from human minds, but still somehow familiar. Dr. Martinez and Dr. Parker stared at her like she had just performed magic. In a way, she had. No human had ever been able to activate alien technology before. No human had ever been able to understand it or control it or even get it to respond in any way. Amanda had done all of that just by touching it. "How did you know what to do?" Dr. Parker asked. Amanda tried to explain, but found that she did not have the right words. It was like trying to explain color to someone who had been blind since birth. The connection between her mind and the alien device was not something that could be described in human language. It was not something she had learned or figured out. It was something she simply knew the same way she knew how to breathe or how to make her heart beat. Over the next few days, they brought her more pieces of alien technology. Each one responded to her touch in ways that amazed the scientists. She could make their weapons power down or power up. She could make their scanners show her what they were looking for. She could even make their broken pieces work again by somehow understanding what was wrong with them and fixing it without tools or instructions. The most important discovery came when they showed her recordings of alien language. The Zephyrian scout ships had been broadcasting messages before they crashed. Human linguists had been trying to translate those messages for months without success. The alien language did not work like human languages. It used sounds and colors and even smells to carry meaning. No human mind could process all of those different types of information at the same time. But Amanda could. When she listened to the recordings, she began to understand what the aliens were saying. The messages were reports being sent back to the main fleet. They described Earth and its defenses and how easy it would be to conquer. They talked about humans like they were insects that might be annoying but were not really dangerous. They mentioned dates and locations and battle plans. Most importantly, they revealed that the main invasion fleet was already on the way to Earth. General Paul Carter arrived at the facility the day after Amanda decoded the alien messages. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many wars. He listened to Dr. Martinez explain what Amanda could do and watched her demonstrate her abilities with alien technology. Then he asked the question that everyone had been thinking, but nobody had wanted to say out loud. Can she fight them? Dr. Martinez looked uncomfortable. She has abilities that no human has ever had before. She can interact with their technology in ways we never thought possible. But she is still just one person against an entire invasion fleet. One person who can turn their own weapons against them, General Carter said. One person who can understand their plans and their weaknesses and their technology better than they understand it themselves. Amanda had been listening to this conversation from across the room, but her enhanced hearing meant she heard every word. She walked over to where the two men were standing and looked directly at the general. I want to try, she said. If there is a chance I can stop them or slow them down or even just make them think twice about attacking Earth, then I have to try. General Carter nodded slowly. The main fleet will be here in 6 days according to the messages you decoded. That does not give us much time to plan. It does not give them much time to plan either, Amanda said. They think they know everything about human capabilities. They have no idea what I can do because nothing like me has ever existed before. Next 6 days passed quickly. Amanda trained with captured alien equipment until she could control it as easily as breathing. She studied the alien language until she could think in their words instead of human words. She learned about their ships and their weapons and their tactics from the data stored in their broken devices. On the 6th day, the sensors detected massive energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. The invasion fleet had arrived exactly when the scout ship messages said it would. Hundreds of alien vessels appeared in space around Earth like deadly stars. Each ship was larger than anything humans had ever built. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy continents. The lead ship began broadcasting surrender demands in the same alien language Amanda had learned to understand. They gave humanity 24 hours to submit to Zephyrian rule or face complete destruction. The message was repeated in dozens of languages, as if the aliens wanted to make sure every human on Earth understood what was about to happen to them. Amanda stood in the command center and listened to the alien voices describing how they would divide up Earth among themselves after the conquest was complete. She felt something cold and hard settle in her chest. These beings had done this to dozens of other worlds. They had destroyed civilizations and enslaved entire species, and they planned to do the same thing to humanity. But they had made one mistake. They had created the weapon that would destroy them when they crashed their scout ships on Earth and gave human scientists the technology to change her into something new, They had no idea what was coming for them. "I need a way to get to their command ship," she told General Carter. The general smiled for the first time since the fleet had arrived. "I think we can arrange that." The captured alien shuttle felt alive under Amanda's hands. She could sense its systems thinking and planning and adjusting to her presence as she guided it away from Earth toward the massive command ship hanging in space like a dark metal moon. The shuttle's biological computers recognized her as something familiar yet impossible, and they welcomed her control in ways that would have confused their original alien builders. General Carter had not wanted to let her go alone, but Amanda knew it was the only way that could work. A larger force would be detected and destroyed before it could get close to the alien fleet. Military ships would trigger every defense system the aliens had, but a single scout shuttle returning from what looked like a reconnaissance mission would be ignored until it was too late. She had spent the last 18 hours learning to fly alien ships using the broken pieces in the Nevada facility. The experience was unlike anything human pilots trained for. The ship did not just respond to her commands, it anticipated them. It felt her intentions and began carrying them out before she fully formed the thoughts. Flying an alien ship was like dancing with a partner who knew all the steps before the music started. The command ship grew larger as she approached. It was 10 miles long and covered with weapons that could crack planets. Smaller ships moved around it like insects around a hive. She could see thousands of aliens through the ship's sensors. They were tall and thin, with skin that changed colors based on their emotions. Right now, most of them showed the blue and green patterns that meant confidence and anticipation. They believed this would be another easy conquest. Amanda guided the shuttle into the command ship's docking bay without triggering any alarms. The alien systems scanned her ship and found nothing unusual because she had used their own technology to make it invisible to their sensors. She had learned to think like their machines thought and speak to them in ways their creators had never intended. The docking bay was enormous and filled with ships designed for planetary assault. Amanda could see troops preparing for the invasion that would begin as soon as Earth's surrender deadline expired. The aliens moved with the casual efficiency of soldiers who had done this many times before on many different worlds. They had no idea they were about to face something completely new. She left the shuttle and walked into the command ship wearing a stolen alien uniform that she had modified to fit her human body. The disguise would not fool anyone who looked closely, but she did not plan to let anyone look closely. Her enhanced speed and reflexes would make her almost impossible to catch, and her ability to control alien technology would make her nearly invisible to their security systems. The command ship was a maze of corridors and chambers that seemed to grow and change as she moved through them. The walls were covered with displays showing information about Earth and its defenses and the planned invasion. Amanda read the alien writing as easily as if it were printed in English, and what she saw made her angry in ways she had never felt before. The aliens had detailed files on every major city on Earth. They knew exactly how many humans lived in each location and how quickly those humans could be eliminated or enslaved. They had already decided which humans would be kept alive to work in their mines and factories, and which would be killed immediately as examples to the others. They discussed human children like they were discussing livestock. Amanda found the ship's main computer core in a chamber at the center of the command vessel. It was a massive organic structure that pulsed with its own heartbeat and glowed with soft light that changed colors as it processed information. The computer was more than just a machine. It was alive in ways that human technology had never achieved. It was the brain of the ship, and the nervous system and the memory all combined into one incredible organism. She placed her hands on its surface and felt its thoughts merge with her own. The experience was overwhelming at first. The computer contained the memories and knowledge of thousands of years of Zephyrian expansion. She could see every world they had conquered and every species they had destroyed. She could feel the cold satisfaction they took in breaking civilizations that had taken millions of years to develop. But she could also feel something else: fear. Deep in the computer's most protected memories, she found records of other species that had fought back against the Zephyrians and won. Not many, and not recently, but enough to prove that the Empire was not as invincible as they pretended to be. The Zephyrians had enemies scattered across the galaxy, worlds that had been freed from their control and now worked to free others. The Empire was vast, but it was also fragile in ways they did not want to admit. Amanda began to work. Her enhanced mind processed information faster than the alien computer could track. She inserted new commands into the ship's systems so subtly that the computer thought they were its own ideas. She changed security protocols and weapon targeting systems and navigation controls. She planted logical viruses that would spread through the fleet's communication network and cause cascade failures in their most critical systems. The work took 4 hours, and the entire time she remained connected to the ship's living computer. She felt its confusion as systems began to malfunction in ways it could not understand. She felt its growing panic as more and more of the ship's functions stopped responding to normal commands. She felt its desperate attempts to call for help as she systematically isolated it from the rest of the fleet. By the time the aliens realized what was happening, it was too late. The command ship's weapons had been turned against its own escort vessels. Its shields had failed and left it defenseless. Its communication systems were broadcasting surrender signals to every ship in the fleet. Its navigation computer was steering it toward Earth's defensive positions, where human missiles were finally finding targets they could actually damage. Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian fleet arrived at the computer core with a dozen armed guards just as Amanda was finishing her work. He was larger than the other aliens, and his skin showed the deep red patterns that meant rage and disbelief. He had never seen anything like what was happening to his ship and his fleet and his carefully planned invasion. "What are you?" he demanded, in his own language. Amanda stood and faced him without fear. Her work was complete, and there was nothing he could do to stop what she had set in motion. Half his fleet was already destroying itself as the viruses she had planted spread from ship to ship. The other half was retreating in confusion as their commanders tried to understand how their most advanced technology had been turned against them so completely. "I am human," she said in perfect Zephyrian. "I am what happens when you push us too far." Veltar stared at her with eyes that showed emotions no human had ever seen before. Terror mixed with something that might have been respect. He had spent his life conquering species that could not match Zephyrian technology. He had never imagined meeting someone who could not just match it, but master it so completely that his own ships became her weapons. "This is impossible," he whispered. Amanda smiled and touched the ship's computer core one last time. Every remaining Zephyrian vessel immediately powered down its weapons and began broadcasting surrender signals. The invasion fleet that had been preparing to destroy Earth now hung helpless in space, waiting for human forces to accept their surrender. "You made one mistake," Amanda told the alien commander. "You assumed that because we were weaker than you, we would always be weaker than you. You forgot that humans adapt and learn and become stronger than whatever tries to destroy us." News of the impossible victory spread through the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. The Zephyrian Empire had been stopped by a single human, who had turned their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. Worlds that had been enslaved for centuries began to hope for freedom. Species that had hidden from Zephyrian scouts began to dream of fighting back. Amanda stood on the bridge of the captured command ship and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, other enslaved worlds were hearing about Earth's victory and beginning to plan their own rebellions. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled through fear and superior technology for thousands of years, but both of those advantages were gone now. She had become something new, something that had never existed before in the galaxy's long history. She was a human who could master alien technology better than the aliens who created it. She was proof that humanity's greatest weapon was not any machine or weapon, but their ability to become whatever they needed to become to survive. The war was far from over, but the impossible had already happened. Earth was free, and the galaxy would never be the same. The news traveled across the galaxy like wildfire, jumping from star to star. On distant worlds that had been under Zephyrian control for hundreds of years, enslaved beings heard whispers of the impossible victory at Earth. A single human had defeated an entire invasion fleet without destroying a single ship. She had turned their own technology against them and forced them to surrender using their own weapons and computers and communication systems. Amanda stood in the command center of what had been the Zephyrian flagship and was now the headquarters of Earth's new space fleet. 3 months had passed since the invasion, and everything had changed. The captured alien ships had been studied and modified and turned into the foundation of humanity's first real interstellar navy. Dr. Martinez and his team worked around the clock to create more enhanced soldiers, but none of them achieved Amanda's level of connection with alien technology. Commander Jake Morrison of the newly formed Earth Defense Corps brought her reports from across the galaxy every day. Rebellion was spreading faster than the Zephyrian Empire could contain it. On the mining world of Kepler 438b, the enslaved Torthan species had risen up against their overseers using captured Zephyrian weapons. On the agricultural planet of Ross 128b, the flower-like Nithari had stopped producing food for the Empire and declared their independence. Dozens of other worlds were sending secret messages asking for human help and guidance. "They are calling you something in their own languages," Jake told her as they reviewed the latest intelligence reports. "The Torthans call you Stonebreaker, because you broke something they thought could never be broken. The Nithari call you Root Turner, because you turned the Empire's strength back on itself like roots breaking up concrete from underneath." Amanda nodded, but she was thinking about something else. The captured Zephyrian computers contained detailed maps of their entire empire. Thousands of worlds spread across hundreds of star systems. Most of those worlds had been conquered so long ago that their original inhabitants had forgotten what freedom looked like. The Zephyrians had been very good at breaking the spirit of entire species and making them believe that resistance was impossible. But now resistance was spreading everywhere, and the Empire was discovering that their technology was no longer the advantage they had always counted on. Human-enhanced soldiers could take control of Zephyrian ships and weapons and turn them against their former masters. More importantly, the very sight of humans working with alien technology was inspiring other species to try things they had never thought possible before. "We need to hit their core systems," Amanda said. "If we keep fighting on the edges of their empire, they will eventually adapt and find ways to counter our abilities. But if we can take down their most important worlds, the whole empire will collapse from the inside." Jake looked worried. "That would mean taking small teams deep into Zephyrian space where we would have no backup and no way to retreat if things went wrong. The odds of success would be very low." "The odds of success were very low when I boarded that command ship," Amanda reminded him. "Sometimes low odds are the only odds you get." The first mission targeted the industrial world of Zephyr Prime, where the aliens manufactured most of their advanced weapons and starship components. Amanda led a team of 5 enhanced humans in captured alien ships that had been modified to mask their human signatures. The journey took 2 weeks through hyperspace lanes that had been controlled by the Zephyrians for centuries. Zephyr Prime was a massive planet covered with factories and refineries that processed raw materials from a dozen conquered worlds. The planet's defenses were incredible. Orbital weapons, platforms that could destroy fleets, sensor networks that could detect intruders from light years away, automated defense systems that responded to threats faster than any living being could think. But all of those defenses used Zephyrian technology, and Amanda could control Zephyrian technology better than the Zephyrians could. The mission took only 6 hours from start to finish. Amanda and her team infiltrated the planet's main computer network and inserted viruses that caused the weapons factories to destroy themselves. They reprogrammed the orbital defenses to attack each other instead of protecting the planet. They turned the sensor networks into chaos generators that made it impossible for the Zephyrians to coordinate any kind of response. By the time they left Zephyr Prime, the industrial heart of the Zephyrian war machine was burning. Decades of weapons. Production had been wiped out in a single night. The psychological impact was even greater than the military impact. If humans could strike at the Empire's most protected worlds, then nowhere was safe. The second mission targeted the communication hub at Alpha Centauri, where the Zephyrians coordinated military operations across half their empire. Amanda's team infiltrated the massive relay stations and reprogrammed them to broadcast messages of rebellion instead of military orders. Every world in the sector suddenly heard transmissions telling them that freedom was possible and that the Empire could be defeated. The third mission struck at the prison world of Tartarus, where the Zephyrians kept their most dangerous political prisoners. Amanda walked through security systems that had never been breached before, and opened every cell in the planet's maximum security facilities. Thousands of resistance leaders from dozens of species were suddenly free and armed with captured Zephyrian weapons. The planet's guards found themselves outnumbered and outgunned by prisoners who had been waiting years for this chance. Each successful mission inspired more rebellions across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire found itself fighting wars on hundreds of fronts simultaneously. Their military was designed to crush resistance on 1 or 2 worlds at a time, but they could not handle uprisings happening everywhere at once. Their technology advantage was gone, and their psychological dominance was crumbling. Commander Veltar, who had been held prisoner on Earth since the failed invasion, requested a meeting with Amanda after the Tartarus mission. She found him in his comfortable cell reading reports of the Empire's collapse with something that looked like relief on his alien features. "You have done something remarkable," he said in his carefully learned English. "You have not just defeated us militarily. You have shown the entire galaxy that evolution does not stop, that there is always something new and unexpected waiting to emerge." Amanda sat across from him at the small table in his cell. She had been wondering when this conversation would happen. "Are you angry about what we have done to your empire?" Veltar's skin showed colors that meant complex emotions humans had no names for. Angry, impressed, terrified, hopeful. Your species has forced us to see ourselves as we really are. We have been ruling through fear and superior technology for so long that we forgot other paths existed. You have reminded us that intelligence and adaptability are more powerful than any weapon. What will happen to your people when this is over? Amanda asked. "The wise ones will adapt as you have adapted," Veltar said. "We will learn to live as partners instead of conquerors. The foolish ones will try to fight until the end and destroy themselves. Evolution is not always kind to species that refuse to change." Reports continued to arrive from across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire was collapsing faster than anyone had expected. Some worlds surrendered without fighting as soon as human ships appeared in their systems. Others welcomed human forces as liberators and begged to join the growing alliance of free worlds. A few tried to resist but found their own technology turned against them by human operators who understood alien systems better than their creators did. Amanda stood in the observation deck of the flagship and watched as another convoy of liberated worlds sent representatives to Earth. Each ship carried beings who had never imagined they would live to see freedom. Each species brought their own knowledge and culture and dreams of what they could build together. The galaxy was changing. The age of the Zephyrian Empire was ending and something new was beginning. Something built on cooperation instead of conquest. Something that celebrated the ability to adapt and grow instead of the power to dominate and destroy. Amanda had become more than just a weapon against the Empire. She had become a symbol of what was possible when different species worked together, instead of fighting each other. Her name was spoken in 100 different languages on 1,000 different worlds. To some, she was a liberator. To others, she was proof that the future belonged to those who could change and grow. But to Amanda herself, she was still the woman who had volunteered for an impossible experiment because someone had to try. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and dangers that no one had imagined yet. There would be new challenges and new enemies and new opportunities to prove that humanity could become whatever they needed to become to survive and thrive among the stars. 5 years had passed since the first Zephyrian invasion fleet had appeared over Earth, and the galaxy was unrecognizable from what it had been before. The Zephyrian Empire no longer existed as a conquering force. Most of their core worlds had voluntarily joined the Terran Federation that now stretched across 200 star systems. The remaining Zephyrian holdouts had either been liberated by their own enslaved populations or had isolated themselves in remote sectors where they posed no threat to anyone. Amanda stood on the bridge of the same flagship she had captured during that first impossible victory and watched as a very different kind of fleet approached Earth. These were not warships coming to conquer, but vessels carrying diplomats and scholars and representatives from every corner of what had once been Zephyrian space. They were coming for a ceremony that no one in galactic history had ever witnessed before. Commander Jake Morrison joined her at the observation window. He had been promoted to Admiral of the Terran Space Fleet, but he still served as Amanda's closest advisor and friend. "The Zephyrian delegation is requesting permission to board," he said. "Veltar says they are ready for the ceremony." Amanda nodded. The ceremony had been Veltar's idea, and it had taken 2 years of negotiations with the remaining Zephyrian leadership to arrange. They wanted to formally acknowledge what Amanda had become and what her victory had meant for the entire galaxy. More importantly, they wanted to ensure that future generations would understand why the age of conquest had ended and the age of cooperation had begun. The delegation that came aboard was led by Veltar, but included representatives from every major Zephyrian world that had joined the Federation. They wore ceremonial robes that changed colors in patterns Amanda had learned to read over the years. The patterns told stories of transformation and evolution, and the wisdom that came from accepting change instead of fighting it. But they were not the only ones present for the ceremony. The main deck of the flagship had been converted into a vast meeting hall where representatives from dozens of liberated species waited. There were the crystalline Ethani, who communicated through harmonic frequencies. There were the gas-based nebulari, who existed as clouds of intelligent particles. There were the plant-like Nethari, whose flower faces could express emotions that moved other species to tears. All of them had come to witness something that had never happened before in galactic history. The formal acknowledgement by a former conquering species that another species had evolved beyond them and represented the future of galactic civilization. Dr. Kevin Martinez sat in the front row with Dr. Lisa Parker and the rest of the original Project Genesis team. They looked older now and tired from years of work, but also satisfied in ways that Amanda could see in their faces. They had created something impossible and watched it change the galaxy in ways they never could have imagined. Amanda caught Dr. Martinez's eye and smiled at him. He had saved humanity by believing in an impossible dream and then making that dream real. Veltar stepped forward and began to speak in the formal language of Zephyrian ceremony. His words were translated into dozens of languages simultaneously, but Amanda understood them in their original form. She had learned to think in Zephyrian during those long months when she was studying their technology and culture. "We gather today to acknowledge a truth that has changed the course of galactic history," Veltar said. "For thousands of years, we believed that technological superiority was the highest form of evolution. We conquered worlds and enslaved species because we thought our ability to build better weapons and faster ships made us the natural rulers of the galaxy." He paused, and his skin showed colors that meant deep regret mixed with hard-won wisdom. We were wrong. Evolution is not about building better tools. Evolution is about becoming better than what you were before. It is about adapting to challenges in ways that no one expects and finding solutions that no one has tried before. The audience listened in perfect silence. Many of the beings present had lived under Zephyrian rule and remembered what it felt like to believe that freedom was impossible. Others had been born free because of Amanda's actions and had never known a galaxy where the Zephyrians were feared. Amanda Clark of Earth represents something new in galactic history, Veltar continued. She is not just a being who can master technology that others built. She is evolution in action. She is proof that intelligence and adaptability are more powerful than any weapon or ship or empire. He turned to face Amanda directly, and his skin showed colors that meant the deepest possible respect. In our language, we call you Kaithara Vel Nash, the apex of evolution, the being who shows us what is possible when a species refuses to accept limitations. The ceremony that followed was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Representatives from every liberated world stood and spoke about what Amanda's victory had meant to them. The Torthans brought stones from their homeworld that they had carved with images of her defeating the invasion fleet. The Nethari had grown flowers that bloomed in colors that represented the emotions they felt when they first heard news of Earth's impossible victory. But the most meaningful moment came when the children spoke. Young beings from dozens of different species who had been born free because of what Amanda had done. They had learned about the old galaxy in their schools, but they could barely imagine what it had been like to live under Zephyrian rule. To them, Amanda was not just a liberator, but a symbol of what their generation could become if they refused to accept that anything was impossible. A young Torthan child, barely old enough to speak clearly, stood up and said in her halting English, "Thank you for making the bad dreams stop. Thank you for showing us that even the strongest bullies can be beaten if you are smart and brave." Amanda felt tears running down her face as she listened to the children. She remembered the scared Marine captain who had volunteered for an experimental procedure 5 years ago because someone had to try. That woman could never have imagined standing here surrounded by free beings from across the galaxy who called her their liberator and their inspiration. When the formal speeches ended, Veltar approached Amanda with something in his hands. It was a crystal device that seemed to contain swirling galaxies of light. "This is a memory crystal," he explained. "It contains the complete history of the Zephyrian Empire from our first steps into space until the day you ended our age of conquest. We want you to have it so that future generations will understand what came before and why it had to change." Amanda accepted the crystal and felt its weight in her hands. It was more than just a gift. It was a responsibility. The Zephyrians were entrusting her with their history and asking her to help ensure that the mistakes of the past were never repeated. "What will you do now?" she asked Veltar. "Your people have been conquerors for so long. What does it mean to be something else?" Veltar's skin showed colors that meant hope mixed with uncertainty. "We will learn. We will explore the galaxy not to conquer it, but to understand it. We will use our technology to help build the Federation instead of using it to destroy others. It will not be easy. Many of my people still struggle with the idea that there are better ways to live than the ways we have always known." He paused and looked around at the incredible diversity of beings who had gathered for the ceremony. "But you have shown us that evolution never stops, that there is always something new waiting to emerge. We want to be part of whatever comes next, instead of trying to prevent it from happening." The celebration continued for 3 days as representatives from across the galaxy shared their cultures and stories and dreams for the future. Amanda spent time with beings she had helped liberate and listened to their plans for rebuilding their worlds and their civilizations. She met scientists who were working on technologies that combined the best ideas from dozens of different species. She talked with explorers who were planning expeditions to parts of the galaxy that had never been visited by any known species. On the final day of the celebration, Amanda found herself alone on the observation deck looking out at the stars. The galaxy seemed different now, brighter somehow, full of possibilities that had not existed before. Ships from 100 different worlds moved through space, carrying trade and knowledge and friendship instead of weapons and conquest. Jake Morrison joined her, and they stood together in comfortable silence for a while. Finally, he said, "Do you ever regret it? Volunteering for the experiment? Becoming what you became?" Amanda thought about the question carefully. She was no longer entirely human in the way she had been born. The serum had changed her in ways that could never be undone. She could never have a normal life, or a normal family, or normal relationships. She was something new and different, and sometimes lonely in ways that other humans could not understand. But she was also free in ways that no human had ever been free before. She could travel among the stars and communicate with beings from dozens of different species and work with technologies that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. She had seen the birth of a new age of galactic civilization and had been the catalyst that made it possible. "No," she said finally. "I do not regret it. The scared woman who walked into that injection chamber 5 years ago could never have imagined what the galaxy could become.